Okay, hello, welcome everyone. Hello everyone. All my dear students, welcome. Welcome to the YouTube session. Okay, so thing is, today we are going to do a very unique topic, and this topic is something that is difficult for many people to understand, but at the same time it is equally interesting. Okay, so we have chosen one such topic which is very interesting, and at the same time it is important also from your examination point of view. Okay, so if you are in 8th standard, so this topic is something which you cannot just avoid. It is good, it is interesting, but at the same time it is equally important for your school examination. So this is the reason we have chosen this topic today. And yes, the topic that we have chosen is cells and more, right? So cells and more, cell is something that all of us know, right? What is cell? All of us know this, isn't it? Right? So everyone knows what is a cell. Everyone knows what is a cell, right? All of you know. Those of who are here in the session, all you guys know what is a cell, right? Yes, of course you know this, right? Now the thing is, if you know what is a cell, you might be thinking something like this, that probably a cell would look like this. A cell would look like this, right? Something which has a distinct structure, something which has some specific organelles with particular function. You might be thinking like this, right? So that I'm pretty sure of. Okay, so in your mind you are probably thinking something like this, something with a distinct structure and concrete boundaries and beautiful internal organelles, right? Something like this. And probably if you are not thinking like this, then you are thinking something like this. Okay, you are thinking probably something like this. Possibility, right? Let's talk about the possibilities that you are probably thinking like this, है ना? So now the thing what I want to tell you is that whatever you're thinking is not wrong. Whatever you're thinking is not wrong, but today I am here to change your thinking a bit. Okay, so if you're thinking something like this, you are correct, and if you are probably thinking like this, then also you are correct, but then you are not 100% correct. So in today's session, I am going to make sure that your knowledge about cell becomes 100% correct, so that you ace your school examinations. Alright, so yes, what did I say? I said that a cell may be looking like this, or a cell may be looking like this, but that is not all. And today I am going to teach you more about cells. So that is why the topic for the day is cells and more, or you can say more knowledge on cells. So who am I basically? My name is Nilanjana Sen, and yes, I am a teacher by profession. I teach at ODA class, and I have been teaching for more than 7 years now, right? So I am very passionate about my profession, about what I do, which is teaching. So teacher is something that I always wanted to become, and I have also worked really hard for that. And yes, I have done a proper training for that as well. So you can say I am a trained teacher, right? So I have taught and mentored more than 4,000 students so far, and yes, every day the list is increasing. So it gives me a lot of joy in teaching, and that is exactly what I am here for today. Alright, so this is about me. And yes, so coming to the point of discussion, if you have been thinking of a cell something like this or something like that, I am not saying you are wrong, but let me just say that cells can come in other types too. Okay, so we can classify cells on the basis of a lot of the features that the cells possess, and one of such feature is the shape of the cell. Okay, so shape of the cell can be various types of cell shapes can be seen. All right, So something like what you see on your screen right now, that is, you can have a spherical RBC, you know, RBC, the cell that makes your blood red in color, you can have something like that. Or else you can also have a pillar shaped, you know, columnar epithelial cells. So these columnar epithelial cells are also present in your body, your own body, but they are present mostly in your alimentary canal, that is in your digestive system. Alright. So these cells are columnar, these cells are pillar shaped in their appearance. And talking about some other cells, we have a round shaped ovum, you know, more or less a spherical or a round shaped ovum. Ovum is basically the female reproductive cell that, you know, possessed by human females particularly. And yes, we also have cells which are spindle shaped, and they are our own muscle cells. So muscle cells are spindle shaped cells, right? So some cells are also star shaped. They look like stars basically. And one such cell is the bone cell. The bone cells, the cells that make up your bones, they can come in different types, but I am talking about a particular type of bone cell which has a star-like shape. It's a star-shaped bone cell. Alright. And have you ever seen the structure of a neuron? So if you have seen the structure of a neuron, you have seen it probably that neurons are elongated cells. Elongated as in length mein they are pretty you know, large. So elongated cells would be your nerve cells. Alright. Nerve cells are also known as neurons, by the way. Right. Nerve cells are also called neurons. Now that is not where the story ends. Some cells also have a tail. Okay. A cell with a tail. Good rhyming, right? So one such cell with a tail is the sperm cell that is also present in human, right? So sperm cell is a cell that has got a tail. So this is your reality check for now, that cells come in various shapes. They come in various sizes, numbers, and also most importantly in various functions, right? So by now probably you have started thinking that cells can either have a shape like this or maybe a shape like that, but yes, they will have a shape for sure, right? Let me give you one more reality check. Sometimes it might so happen that a cell will not have a particular shape at all, right? So let's talk about a WBC, another cell which is also present in your body, right? So this cell, which is also a part of your blood, it does not have a shape at all. So a WBC is said to be irregular for the fact that it does not have a shape of its own, right? So it can keep on changing its shape depending upon the requirement, what it needs to do, right? So WBCs happen to be the soldiers of your body. They constantly fight for you, constantly, right? And for that purpose, they need to change their shapes pretty often. And due to that, they have an irregular shape, which means that they don't have a shape of their own, right? They don't have a shape of their own. They are irregular in shape. So far, what we have learnt is a cell may have a particular shape like a neuron or probably an RBC or probably a sperm cell. But at the same time, a cell can also be irregular, that is without a particular shape like that of the WBC, that is the white blood cell which is present in the blood, right? If this is what you think and this is what you believe, then let me confuse you once again. Think about it, okay? सोचो, थोड़ा सा आप सोचो, and yes, सोचोगे तो आपको पता चलेगा that cells can actually be of some other types also, okay? So think again, थोड़ा सा अपने brain cells पे जोर लगाओ, and then think about it कि how many other types of cell are also possible. So here comes our next possibility in the type of cell. What is it? It is a prokaryotic cell. Okay, I say it again. It is a prokaryotic cell, right? So a prokaryotic cell is essentially a cell that does not have a proper nucleus. Okay, nucleus, which is a very important part of cell. So that is not very well defined in this type of cell. That's when we call it as a prokaryotic cell. Got it? So a prokaryotic cell is where pro means primitive. Pro का मतलब क्या होता है? Primitive. And karyon means nucleus. Okay? So pro means primitive, karyon means nucleus. So a prokaryotic cell is basically a cell which does not have a well defined nucleus. न्यूक्लियस नहीं होता है ऐसे सेल्स के पास. तो अगर न्यूक्लियस नहीं होता, इफ देयर इज नो न्यूक्लियस, देन व्हाट इज देयर? इंस्टेड ऑफ न्यूक्लियस, व्हाट इज द स्ट्रक्चर दैट इज प्रेजेंट इन सच सेल्स? वेल, these cells have got something which we call as a nucleoid. All right, so they don't have a nucleus, instead they have something called as a nucleoid, right? So nucleoid is present in these cells. And this nucleoid will contain almost the same thing like that of the nucleus, which is your genetic material. Okay, so DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid is one such genetic material. We all know this fact. And yes, a bacterial nucleoid is going to contain the DNA because bacteria does not have a nucleus. So we can conclude from here that bacteria happens to be a prokaryotic cell, where pro means primitive and karyon means nucleus, right? So another example of prokaryotic cell will be the blue-green algae, right? So a blue-green algae, which is also abbreviated sometimes as the BGA, also happens to be a prokaryotic cell. It is also an example of prokaryotic cell. Okay, and I am saying so only by looking at it. ठीक है, मैं कुछ भी नहीं देखूंगी. I'll not look at any other character. Just by looking at this structure, this figure, this diagram, I can definitely conclude that this cell is a prokaryotic cell. Okay. So if you are wondering why it is a prokaryotic cell, let me tell you, it has a nucleoid. Alright. So because of the fact that a prokaryotic cell has a nucleoid and this cell, that is the blue-green algae, has got nucleoid, we can conclude it for sure that the BGA is a prokaryotic cell. Alright. So BGA क्या है? It's a prokaryotic cell. One more example is the bacterial cell. So bacterial cell and the BGA, that is blue-green algae, are both examples of prokaryotic cell. So far, ma'am has told you what? Ma'am has told you that cells can come in different shapes. Cells may not have a shape. Cell can be prokaryotic like a bacterial cell and a BGA, that's a blue-green algae. What else? Cells can also be eukaryotic. Okay, so this is something which is the opposite of prokaryotic, that is an eukaryotic cell, right? So a eukaryotic cell has got a true nucleus. This is the main reason it is very different from that of the prokaryotic cell. So an eukaryotic cell is supposed to have a true nucleus. True, U means true. Now what on earth is a true nucleus? What is that? The true nucleus is a type of nucleus where a nuclear membrane is present. Okay. So if you look at the nucleus here, let's say this is the nucleus. Okay. This is the nucleus for this particular cell. Similarly, for this cell, this one will be the nucleus. Alright. So this one will be the nucleus for the other cell. So if you look at these two nuclei, you can see that there is something in common. Okay. So there is something in common, and yes, that common thing is the presence of a nuclear membrane. So a nuclear membrane is something that is common to all eukaryotic cells, right? So nuclear membrane is something which is a membrane and it is present around the nucleus like a protective structure, you can say. Alright. So a protective structure around the nucleus will make any cell an eukaryotic cell. है ना? So cell may be either prokaryotic like a blue-green algae or a bacteria. A cell may be eukaryotic too, like a plant cell or an animal cell that you see on your screen. And yes, these cells do have a well-developed nucleus with the presence of a nuclear membrane. I hope I am clear on this. Now, if we move on from here, what next can we do? We have learnt about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So why not take a quick look at how these two types of cell differ from each other. Okay. So in short, let's compare the two types of cells now. So prokaryotic cells, that is the one with primitive nucleus, they are generally small size cells. But eukaryotic cells on the other hand, they will be large size cells, generally. We are not talking about exception. This is the general trend. Alright. Secondly, a prokaryotic cell has got a nucleoid because it does not have a nucleus. I told you, a prokaryotic cell will not have a nucleus. Instead, it will have a nucleoid. But the eukaryotic cell on the other hand will have a true nucleus. That is why it is different, right? So a nuclear region is well defined and it is surrounded by the nuclear membrane, because of which it is eukaryotic. And the final point of difference is the prokaryotic cells don't have membrane bound cell organelles. Now what on earth does that mean? It means that the organelles or the structures that are present within those cells, they will not be enclosed by a membrane, right? So if, let's say, there is a structure which is not enclosed by a membrane, there is no covering around it, and let's say this is a cell organelle 2. This is a cell organelle 2. So yes, these types of cell organelle is what you can expect in the prokaryotic cells. Got it? So these types of membrane, without membrane bound cell organelles can be expected in the prokaryotic cells. And yes, eukaryotic cells on the other hand will be having any type of cell organelles that come with a membrane. Okay. So most of the cell organelles that are present in the eukaryotic cell will be having a membrane around them. Most of them, not all, but most, right? So mitochondria, lysosome, endoplasmic reticulum are examples of such membrane bound organelles. Alright. So in short, if we just revise what we have just learnt, prokaryotic cell small in size, eukaryotic cell generally comparatively larger in size. A prokaryotic cells, they will not have a nucleus, instead they have a nucleoid. But an eukaryotic cell will be having a well developed nucleus surrounded by a nuclear membrane. Third point is a prokaryotic cell does not have membrane bound organelles, whereas the eukaryotic cell will be having membrane bound organelles like mitochondria, lysosome, endoplasmic reticulum, so on and so forth. Alright. So I believe the difference of the two types of cell are also very clear to you. Let's move on. So I told you that cells come in different shapes. Cells may not have a shape. Cell may be a prokaryotic cell. Cell may be an eukaryotic cell too. But there is something that many of the cells have in common. Not all, but many or most of the cells have in common in them. So what is that? That amazing structure is a nucleus, right? So voila, a nucleus is a structure that is present in most of the cells. Not all, but most of the cells, whether it's a plant cell, whether it's an animal cell, or whether it's different types of cell, they will be mostly having a nucleus. A nucleus is like a brain of the cell. So you pretty much know what your brain does for you, right? You know it, right? So you know what your brain does for you. So a nucleus is also like the brain of the cell. And a brain may have a lot of powers, but then with great power comes great responsibilities. So it is the nucleus which decides what a cell does, when a cell does, and how a cell does. Okay. So in short, you can say that nucleus is a very powerful and important part of a cell. It is the genetic bureau of the cell. It carries a lot of genetic informations in it, right? and those genetic informations are basically used for the different activities that a cell does, right? So whatever you are is basically because of the genes that you have. And where are the genes present? The genes are present within this amazing structure, which is the nucleus. Alright? So I believe this is more or less clear, the role of nucleus. Let's move on. Now, where is the nucleus exactly located in a cell? So this is just an idea. Don't take it to be like a standard. But mostly a nucleus has got a very, it is mostly located at the center of the cell. For most of the cells, not all though, but for most of the cells it is located at the center. Plant cells may not have it at the center, but yes, for other cells mostly it is located at the center. Okay, so this is just for your idea. This is where the nucleus is located, right? And let's talk a little more about nucleus. So I think I have already told you that nucleus is the brain of the cell. What is nucleus? Nucleus is the brain of the cell. So you pretty much know what your brain does for you. Your brain does a lot of things for you. Okay. Whenever you have to have your favorite food, your brain tells you, this is good, this is not. Whenever you have to play your favorite game, your brain will decide, this is the good game, this is not a good game. Wherever you have to sit down to study, your brain will also tell you that yes, this is the time for which we have to sit down and study. Okay, so your brain actually takes up a lot of decisions on your behalf. It's an important part of your body, you can say that, right? So just like the brain of your body, the nucleus is also the brain of the cell. And this nucleus was discovered by someone, which is Robert Brown. Okay, so Robert Brown was the name of the scientist who discovered nucleus. Now, one small note of caution that I would like to give you. The name of the scientist is Robert Brown, not Robert Hooke. Okay, keep that in mind. Because Robert Hooke was also a scientist who is known for some other, inventions. But yes, nucleus was discovered by Robert Brown and not Robert Hooke. Keep that in mind. Now, nucleus can come in various shapes. Let's not even go into that. But mostly the generalized shape is a spherical shape. Okay. So spherical shaped nucleus is what we generally find in a cell. And if I am talking about a nucleus, a well-developed one, then it cannot be possible that the nucleus will not have its protective structure. And by saying so, I mean that a nuclear envelope, a nuclear membrane is a must for any kind of formed nucleus, you can say that. So nuclear membrane or the nuclear envelope is one of the most prominent and one of the most important parts of a nucleus. Keep that in mind, right? And yes, if you dive into the inside of the nucleus to know what's inside, you can also encounter these structures and these things inside the nucleus. One of them is nucleoplasm, okay? So it is like basically the personalized cytoplasm of the nucleus. Nucleus is very important and it is treated specially by cells. So it has its own personalized cytoplasm, which we can call as nucleoplasm. And yes, a very, very important structure which is called the nucleolus, right? And yes, finally, like I told you, that nucleus is mostly known for the presence of its genetic material, right? So nucleus is known for the presence of its genetic material, that is the DNA or the gene inside it. Okay? So yes, nucleus is the brain of the cell. It was discovered by Robert Brown, mostly spherical in shape. It comes with a nuclear membrane or a nuclear envelope. The structure will include a nucleoplasm, a nucleolus and genetic material such as DNA. Okay? So this is mostly about nucleus. Now, if we move a little ahead, I can show you the structure of a nucleus too. Okay? So yes, this type of structure is what you can expect in a eukaryotic cell. It will not be present in a prokaryotic cell. Keep that in mind because I am talking about a well-defined nucleus. Alright? So this is present definitely for sure 100% in an eukaryotic cell. Right? So if you just look at the structure, have a look at it. Let's find out its amazing features. So first of all, let me take your attention to this structure, which is the nuclear envelope. Okay. So nuclear envelope is the other name for your nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane. And this is actually a double membrane structure. So if you look closely, you can see that this is one membrane, there is the other one, right? So nuclear envelope or nuclear membrane is a dual membrane structure, and also it is not a continuous structure. So if you just look into the structure once again, you can see that there are interruptions in between. There are gaps. There are spaces in between. The nuclear membrane is not continuous. Alright. So these gaps or these junctions where there is a interruption. So these places are what we call as nuclear pores. Okay. So nuclear pores are the gaps in between the nuclear membrane. And if you further get into the structure of a nucleus, you can encounter the nucleoplasm, which is, like I told you, it's the personalized cytoplasm of the nucleus. Alright, I prefer to call it that way. And yes, you can see this prominent structure within the nucleus as well. And this prominent structure is what we call as the nucleolus, right? What's the name? It's a nucleolus, right? A nucleolus is also called as the ribosome factory of the cell. Okay, nucleolus को हम ribosome factory भी बोल सकते हैं for the simple reason that nucleolus helps in biosynthesis of the ribosomes. ठीक है? So ribosomes are organelles that help in protein synthesis. I believe everyone in the class knows that. And these ribosomes are actually synthesized in the nucleolus, right? So nucleolus is something which is known as the ribosome factory of the cell. Alright. Now coming to the most important aspect of the nucleus, that is the presence of the chromatin. Okay. So if you can see it here, twisted and coiled threads like this, right? So these structures are said to be the chromatin, which is also present in the nucleus, and they are going to contain the genetic material. So the DNA, if you know this, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So this DNA is present within the chromatin material, which in turn is present within the nucleolus, right? So I believe this is clear. Just a quick summary before we move on to the next slide, right? So yes, a nucleus is very important part of a cell, and for an eukaryotic cell, a nucleus is very different, right? So it has a double membrane, nuclear membrane, or a nuclear envelope, and this is not even continuous. There are gaps in between. These gaps are called nuclear pores, and if you get into it, the structure, the main structure, you can encounter the personalized cytoplasm, which is the nucleoplasm, and scattered on it would be the chromatin material containing the genetic material. And yes, you can also see a prominent structure, which is the nucleolus, which is the ribosome factory of a cell. Yeah, because for the simple reason it synthesizes ribosomes. Okay, so this is more or less about the nucleus. Okay, now coming to one of the parts where most of the students find difficulty, but not anymore after today, because today you are going to come to know about a mnemonic, a trick which will actually help you in remembering this difficult concept very easily. Okay, let me not say it as a difficult concept, but yes, it is definitely a concept where most of the students find difficulty. So yeah, so this is one part which you should actually listen to very carefully, right? So now let me take you to this part, that is a cell will be having a nucleus. Yes, of course, by now you know that we are talking about an eukaryotic cell, and these cells, that is the nucleus of the cell, will be having structures which is chromosome, right? And chromosome will be containing the DNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acid, which in turn will be having the genes in it, right? So yes, the sequence is cells having nucleus, nucleus having chromosome, chromosome having DNA, and DNA having gene, right? Now based on this sequence, outside to inside, inside to outside, simple to complex, complex to simple, lots of questions may be asked, not only in your school but also in different competitive examination. So if you really want to ace in those, questions which might confuse you during examination, let me help you with a simple mnemonic. Okay, so let's say you have been to a birthday party of your friend, and after the dinner and all, so your friend is inviting you for dance and game. It is a very common event at the birthday parties. So yes, you can remember this. Now come for dance and games, right? Your friend is calling you, your friend whose birthday it is, so is calling you after the dinner, that is come for dance and games, right? And with the help of this trick or this mnemonic, you can actually learn the sequence like a pro. So now stands for nucleus. Okay, let me just help you out by highlighting. Now stands for nucleus. Come, the C of come will stand for chromosome. The D of dance will stand for DNA. The G of games will stand for the genes. Okay, so now come for dance and games is equal to nucleus, chromosome, DNA and genes. This is how the sequence goes from the complex to the simplest. Okay, so here you have the most complex, and at this level you have the most simple. Okay, so yes, if you remember this trick, now come for dance and games. How difficult it is to remember? Not much, right? Not much. So yes, if you can remember this, you can also remember this entire sequence from most complex to most simple in terms of chromosome, nucleus, DNA and genes, right? So yes, this was more or less about it. Now, so today we have more or less covered a lot of the basic topics, and yes, I had chosen topics where students mostly face difficulty. So if you have attended my session, I have some ways of testing it too. Okay, so here comes some questions for you, and yes, these questions will actually help me in deciding whether you have attended my session with full attention or not, right? So let's go for the first question. Don't worry, if you are not able to answer, you are here to learn, so I'll help you with the answer as well. Okay, so yes, so in the word eukaryotic, carry on means what? Okay, so in the word eukaryotic, carry on would mean what? Is it cell? Is it nucleus? Is it primitive? Or is it advanced? Okay, see the options and maybe I'll give you a moment. So think about the answer and answer to me in the live chat box. Okay, so yes, I think I have already got some answers. Very good, people. So you have been listening with a lot of attention, it seems. Yes, so carry on indeed will mean nucleus. Okay, carry on means nucleus. Okay, let's have a look at the answer. Carry on will mean nucleus. Okay, let's have the next question. Question number 2 on your screen comes here. I control the functions of a cell. So who am I? If I control the function of a cell, so who am I? Have a look at the option. Is it cell wall? Is it nucleus? Is it ribosome? Or is it cell membrane? Okay, so still some people are giving me the answer, and the good news is the answers they are giving are actually correct. Okay, so yes, people, if I control the functions of a cell, I am no other than a nucleus. Alright, so nucleus is the answer to question number 2. Let's go for the next question, that is question number 3. So under the microscope, Paheli observes a cell that does not have a distinct nucleus. So which cell are we talking about? Okay, I'll help you. Under the microscope, Paheli will observe a cell that does not have a distinct nucleus. This is the main information that you get from the question. It does not have a nucleus. So if the cell does not have a nucleus, out of plant cell, animal cell, skin cell and bacterial cell, which one do you think is the answer? Okay, which one do you think will be the answer to this question? Let me see. Yes, people are giving the correct answer. The answer to this quiz is it will be a bacterial cell because it does not have a distinct nucleus. So it is definitely a prokaryotic cell, and out of the examples or out of the options that are given in the question, plant cell, animal cell, skin cell and bacterial cell, only bacterial cell will be your example for prokaryotic cell. Okay. So therefore a bacterial cell will be the answer to this question. Alright. Let's have a look at the next question as well. Which of the following has a nucleoid in it? Is it a bacterial cell? Is it a blue-green alga? Are both options A and B correct? Or is it option D, that is a white blood cell? Let me see who gives the answer this time. Okay. So yes, if I am talking about a cell that has got a nucleoid in it, a nucleoid is present in a cell which is a prokaryotic cell, and bacterial cell and blue-green alga are both examples of prokaryotic cells. So the answer without a second doubt will be option C, that is both A and B are correct. Alright. So yes people, I think you have mastered the topic that I have taught, which makes me immensely happy. And if you want to continue learning with us this way, then I have a good news for you. You are all invited to ODA class, right? ODA class is the place where we all teach, and ODA class is the #1 edtech platform of India. It is ODA class where technology meets education, and yes, we provide world-class education which you can see from the comfort of your home. Okay. And we have a lot of unique features, like all the lectures that you will be getting are live and interactive. The teachers, the mentors will be guiding you. And yes, but the most important of all is our dual teacher model. And in this model, we have a full-fledged master teacher and also a full-time mentor to guide you, right? So a teacher and a mentor will be both guiding you. And yes, there is nothing better than this. So if you want to experience this dual teacher model which we follow at ODA class, you must come to ODA class. You have to download the app from the App Store, and then you can get yourself enrolled, and depending upon your class, you can attend the sessions. We have sessions every day. So all you need to do is download the app and then just have a look at the classes and be a part of this amazing ODA family. Alright. So we are also coming up with a revision program starting from 14th of December. Doesn't matter which class you are. We have our classes from 3rd to 11th and 12th as well. So you can come for our revision program. You're most welcome, because we are starting our revision program on the 14th of December. Just all you need to do is download the app, visit the app, find out the details, and just join this amazing program where we are going to solve all your problems related to revision. Okay. So revision program is a must for all the students who want to do well in their annual examination. Okay. And yes, what are the key features that we are bringing for you in the revision program? Last minute tricks and tips and time management, all practice questions, analysis of all the tests, everything we are going to provide you in your revision program. Okay. So something that no student would like to miss is what we call as a revision program. And yes, I think this was all I had in store for the day. So people, visit the ODA platform. I am so sure that you are going to like it. You are going to fall in love with it. And yes, we'll also continue having our classes on YouTube. So you can also join our YouTube lessons. Okay. So that's all from my end for the day. Thank you so much.